These pieces of plastic, on gramophone, turntable, record player, and so on, have been the catalyst for bringing music to the masses in the first real tangible and physical form. Over the last half decade or so, vinyl has made a comeback, which has stemmed from its conservation by predominantly DJs and collectors. We'll follow 4 Cork vinyl enthusiasts and what makes them and vinyl tick. Two outliers during and after the vinyl period, and now beneficiaries of its modern revival, are John BIPOLARBEATS Dwyer, owner of Pistol and Boo Vinyl in Mother Jones Flea Market in Cork City, and former DJ in London's squat scene during the early to mid 90s. And Ian Fiasco, DJ and music history fanatic from Cork, who has a keen interest in dancing, which fueled his fascination with records and the history behind them.
Drum and bass DJs as well were always getting tunes cut, same with, to bring out and play that weekend. So I think there was always that niche market. Reggae's definitely kept vinyl alive. Reggae vinyl has always been sold in high seller. But I think it's just kids now make the association of like picking up a record and actually owning the record, looking at the artwork and stuff rather than having an MP3.
With people, I suppose, wanting a physical object, so it's with all the downloading now, CDs have kind of gone out of style because of that. Part of the reason that it's people wanting to kind of have something that they can touch. That's a big part of it. I think the reason why vinyl sales have been increasing recently.
Stephen Granger, better known in radio and DJ circles as Stevie G, is one of Cork's stalwarts on the music scene. From radio DJ Cork's Red FM to live player, from festival goer to festival organiser, from vinyl business owner to buyer, Steve kickstarted his career listening to radio and collecting records from a diverse range of artists and backgrounds.
I grew up like any kid in the 80s into music. It was like whatever pop stuff, Michael Jackson and Prince were the big ones. And then as the decade progressed and as I became a teenager, I started getting into more kind of alternative bands like The Cure, Sonic Youth, The Pixies. Later, people like The Clash would have been a big influence, so I started getting heavily into punk and all of that kind of stuff. And I always had a feeling, even though some of the bands were around at the time, like Sonic Youth and The Pixies and even Nirvana, I always had a feeling that I'd kind of missed the kind of golden age of like bands that I was into. And then hip hop came along and it was bang, like, and I was in the middle of that. Like, we were the same age as some of the rappers we were listening to. So when stuff like NWA, Public Enemy came along, it was a big change for me, and I really felt that it was the now thing.
Collectors have played a pivotal role in keeping vinyl breathing and above water. John Byrne is a Cork collector and one of Ireland's most prolific purchasers and vinyl compilers. John doesn't mind spending more than a pretty penny on a record or two.
I started collecting records before adolescence, I suppose you'd say. For some reason, we did collect stamps when we were kids, myself and my brother. And I have no idea where the collecting thing came from, but I don't remember my parents collecting anything. They had a handful of records in the corner of the room, and for some reason that gave us the impetus to start collecting all around us.
Many see the cultural appropriation of whites, when infiltrating black culture, as something that has occurred throughout music history. This was no different when Stevie G decided to dive into some local vinyl delights when stumbling upon an insular black community in the US many years ago.
When I was in my J1 in the 90s, went to the States, we went to like Newport, Rhode Island, but I was saving and I couldn't get records there. There was like a local store, but I was like, they had Beastie Boys album or whatever, but I couldn't get, like, I was in the States to get, like, to dig in, to get all, and this was a good time for vinyl too. So I remember I went to the big city, I couldn't find anything, and I started just walking. It was a really hot day, and I had loads of money, which I was like hiding, because I've been working for about a month and a half already, and I was just ready to buy records, and I couldn't find a shop, and I just kept walking, and I eventually ended up walking into the kind of ghetto, so to speak. And then, like, there was finally shops, but it was Spanish, Latin shops, and they didn't even have records, really. So it's all CDs and stuff. But I kind of got this sense, of whatever it was, like I just got this feeling, and I kept walking, and eventually went into the deepest black ghetto, and I found this shop, man. I was just like, oh my god, it's unbelievable. Like, your mum was looking at me when I was in there, as in like, what the hell are you doing in here? Like, and he was even, one of the lads at the counter, the other guy was laughing, like, kind of, oh, what you want, House of Pain? And then I just kind of ignored it, and I spent about half an hour digging, and I brought up about this much records, and just, he's like, jeez, like, because he was looking at them, he was kind of impressed then that it wasn't just like, and he knew I knew my stuff. And I hit it off with the guy behind the counter, Curly Cuts, this big huge guy, and I found out that he was the DJ I'd been listening to all summer, and Kicks 106 was the station. He gave me loads of his own ones as well, and he was a massive influence.
It's all well and good, you may say, but over the last few months, facts and figures have shown the Resurgence is taking on a more fad-like turn. Many people are buying records, not playing them, and using them for artwork on the wall and other acts of music-related blasphemy. A Billboard report has shown that music sales for the first 6 months of this year are the lowest they have been in 25 years. US album sales have dropped to 100.3 million for the first half of this year, a 13.6% decrease from the same period last year. However, revenue has increased by 8.9%, nearly $2 billion so far this year, predominantly due to streaming services.
It's just a media thing. They're using it for wedding invites, they're using it for all kinds of things. I say, why not, in a way? So yeah, if they want to stick them on a wall, throw darts at them or whatever, or use them for wedding invites or whatever, what the hell, why not? But if you look at the sales of it, you'll find that most of the sales that there are of any kind of Resurgence, if there is any, and I don't really believe there is, to be honest, not now anyway, they don't come from the mainstream, basically, for the most part, I would say, because they never have. Not in 25 years since the thing has been a niche thing. Well, most of 30 years now. It's an old cliche at this stage, even though it's only a few years, to say that a lot of people who buy records don't have a medium, technology which to play it on.
Because of situations like this, we are seeing closures of record shops still occurring. But shop owners like John aren't worried and still see a place for the medium.
I don't know, it's hard to tell. Like, there's a lot of like, those companies got massive overheads and massive buying power and stuff, and you know, they tend to kind of cater for the mainstream, I suppose. So little shops like us will always cater for the guys who are looking for their techno, their drum and bass, their rock, whatever. So we might have smaller premises, smaller shops, but we'll have a better selection than a lot of the big shops. So people will always come and seek us out for that kind of, I suppose, the chance of finding something that they've been after for years.
Why has vinyl withstood so many paradigm and technological shifts? With convenience such a priority these days, how has a larger, more cumbersome way of consuming music remained?
For a number of reasons. One, the real money behind the industry hasn't replaced it with anything substantial for quite a long time. Two, generally speaking, you could get a better audio source or a better audio quality thing, but you don't really have a common carrier that is better as regards an audio source. That's the reason it's maintained. That's the reason that when they tried to kill it, they couldn't. As in, the major labels that still exist, they did try to kill it and they couldn't do it because DJs and various other people who used it habitually found it to be a better medium and still do.
Even when out of style, DJs kept vinyl alive, primarily due to its audio quality and ability to maintain large-scale sounds that are taken in by the human ear and body that are impossible via digital and non-analog formats.
I mean, it's changed now because it's kind of back in fashion, but 5 or 6 years ago, you'd still, no matter where you're playing it, if people coming up to you going like, what the hell, does this still exist? It has to be said as well, if you look at like music like hip-hop or music like electronic music, it kept the music, it kept the vinyl alive.
When you're DJing for a dance hall, for a nightclub or whatever, a lot of the music, especially like with kind of drum and bass and techno and house and all that, a lot of it is your body physically responds to the sub bass So a lot of those kind of big bass bins that you see are actually putting out vibrations that are below the threshold of what you can hear. So your body can feel them and your body responds to them, like your diaphragm will, kind of pick up on it. But you can't actually hear them. But with the digital releases, like especially with the very early CDs, they would cut out all the high frequencies that were kind of not really part of the music, but they'd also cut out anything that was below the threshold of your hearing. So you lost all of those sub-bass frequencies. So that was the reason why the dance music DJ stuck with the vinyl, was because it's not digital, it's analog, and it has the full range of frequencies that were recorded in the first place. So you get this very physical, kind of visceral response to the music when you're dancing.
Stevie G has been a mainstayer in the Cork music scene, bringing diversity and depth to a very white Southern Ireland. He's met and kept contact with the best of the best in the world of music, particularly black music, before its time, that's been heavily white appropriated today.
That is soul. These are the ultimate breaks of beats, they're early hip hop records. Your man who did them signed them. Black Alicia started in Cork quite a bit. Dame Funk, he's a friend of mine, he's brilliant. Massive Attack. The Jungle Brothers, one of the very early pioneering hip hop records. Wu-Tang Clan, everyone knows them. Peanut Butter Wolf and Charisma. John Legend, the soul artist. Jurassic 5, Cut Chemist signed that. Kerry Chandler, the house producer and DJ, he actually did a thing with Nina Simone, and unfortunately the night she died, I was DJing with him and I told him the bad news, and he just wrote a little note on that because he was quite emotional that night. Because Troy Stubberfield, he's the drummer, James Brown, he signed that and he gave me his drumstick. That little drum break was used by the Stone Roses, Madonna, everyone. It's like the most important hip hop drum break of all time. They call it Funky Drummer. And one of my favourites, a good friend of mine, Mr. Scruff, he designs all his own covers as well, and he's really cool the way he signed that. He even makes his own tea, so he's a multi-talented guy.
Cool. Why have these guys bothered to keep this love affair going? Hard slogs, tireless crate digging, money well and ill spent.
I don't love anything about it. It'd be so good if you had this kind of format. It was just not damageable. That's the thing that I really don't like. If somebody gave me, something made of whatever, reconstituted Mongolian goat turd or something, whatever, into a record, and it wasn't damageable, I'd be very happy. I'd go off with those. I'd throw all this shit in a skip, no problem. But what was the question again? Well, no, that's a bit anti, really. It's not technically true to say I don't love anything about it. I enjoy it more than other mediums. That's more fair. Going back to things I've already said, it is still generally, as a commonplace thing, the best medium to carry sound in. It just has a better sound than digital ones and zeros can portray.
It's partly the hunting down rare ones. It's like that kind of hunter-gatherer thing. Get satisfied by collecting kind of rare records. To have records that are older than I am, it's just something really special. People
collect old sorts, as we know, but I think people get bitten by the music bug and then they just want to find the originals, the represses, blah blah blah, they just want as many records as they can get. It turns into a bit of an illness.
So I just remember learning most of my things through records. I would have been a big reader and stuff as well, but it would have been, I think I learned about music through records and through vinyl, and it's a pretty cool way to do it.
It's plain to see how and why the resurgence of vinyl has occurred. Even if some experts don't see it as a total revival, or even something that new, records have been an important aspect to all of these men's lives. The resurgence has brought about a nostalgic element to the old, and has made the young more aware of how music was first consumed. Even for the pessimists, that has to be a wonderful sight. We haven't quite killed it off yet, and it's going to be hard to do so.